good afternoon. My name is Debbie Denison, and this afternoon I'm joined with Glen Solimine and Kevin Heins. Thank you both very much for joining us. They're with JP Morgan, and this afternoon they're going to be discussing with us how JP Morgan is making endeavors to simplify the onboarding of new clients and making that business experience a little simpler and more efficient. So tell us a little bit about your role at the company and what you're doing.
Sure. So I am part of the implementations team, and my job is to bring technology to that process of bringing clients into the firm, making sure that their experience in opening and maintaining their bank accounts and configuring their products is as simple as possible.
So I run the implementations organization globally for JP Morgan in our transaction banking business. And my job is to provide a seamless client experience for clients, whether they're new, existing, giving them a seamless experience to the firm.
That's great. So you mentioned new and existing, which I like, because all treasury professionals are experienced with opening bank accounts. They know what it's like to do the documentation for Know Your Customer. So tell us what you're specifically doing to make that process easier and what automation you're applying to that process.
So I'll start and then Glenn can kind of come in, but all clients have the same problems: visibility, documentation, heavy compliance requirements by country, and this has been a problem that's been around, it's never gone away. So what we're trying to do is digitize as much of that as possible, whether it's electronic documents, electronic consent, self-testing your files. We want to make it feel like your personal life. The way technology exists in your personal life, we want to bring that experience to the wholesale clients.
So when they're doing the documentation and onboarding, and it's not just domestic, it's global, so tell us what you're doing to help facilitate with all the individual country requirements.
So one of the other big challenges we have as an industry is that there's no consistency globally, right? So what we wanted to do is bring some level of consistency there, right? And the idea here is that, we're all doing the same thing. It doesn't matter what country you're in. It doesn't matter, what type of accounts that you want. But we've made it so that the steps are all different from country to country. So what we've done in digitizing the experience is bring some level of consistency. So for example, we talked about documentation and visibility. We give the client the ability to bring the documentation into a system electronically. That helps us move it into our back office processes electronically also. So there's a certain amount of turnaround time that we're picking up. Again, globally consistent. Now that documentation might vary from country to country, but the step where you're going through and saying, hey, I've got to provide these documents is consistent, regardless of where you are. The process of how quickly it goes and it moves through is, again, consistent. So we're really focused on, for the clients, making it as consistent as possible, and again, just bringing it to the right level of, of consistency.
And I'm going to add something else. Every bank, every corporate, everyone reads the regulations differently, right?
Absolutely.
So it's critical to make it as simple as possible. So whether you're going through a KYC, going through account opening, fulfilling a service, it should be as simple, and all the requirements should be put in one place at one time. It's something that's never happened in the past, and it's something Glenn and his team are really focused on, is how do we make it where when you log on and you want to open an account in London, everything, whether it's an onboarding or a product, everything's there for you. Docs, what data we need, any authorized consent, making that as simple as possible. It's not easy, but it's where we have to go as a business.
I'll second the it's not easy part, but what really helps is a rules engine. So if you're opening an account in Hong Kong, we have a certain amount of products that are available in Hong Kong, right? So we're only going to present those products to you, right? There are certain countries where you need wet ink signatures on documents. So there's no requirement that says, hey, you can't load the document up electronically and then send the hard copy, right? But our process is such that we can work with the electronic version of the document and then wait for the hard copy to come in, and then we can close the process when it's received. Again, consistent across the globe.
And I would think that being able to share the documents, that adds some additional security around the process of sharing those documents, maybe over some of the
Definitely.
Traditional ways that have been sharing documents, emails in the past. When you answered that part about the security, tell me a little bit about what your system can do in terms of tracking the process or reporting on the process as they start going through the
Sure.
implementation.
So the visibility is probably one of the key things we started with. Think of a pizza being delivered from the moment the dough is rolled to sauce to cheese to oven to house. You could track it the whole way. We thought of it the same way. Why can't we see when a doc comes in, push it over, put accountability also behind it, who owes what, whether it's the client or whether it's us that has to do something. And I think being able to see that live on a dashboard, it removes a lot of the noise that comes with setting up or going through a KYC.
Yeah, and maybe as we continue to, shorten the process, that visibility isn't as important. But for right now, as we go through and we're doing still a lot of reviews on documentation and things like that, imagine how frustrating it could be if you don't know where you are in the process, right? So we wanted to make sure that, again, part of it being easy to do business is being comfortable, right? And knowing where you are in the process. And that visibility was really, really important to the way that we want to create that client experience.
For my practitioner years, I know just tracking the documents within the organization itself is a challenge. So to be able to have a system where you can go to the bank and track where did they go last, what's the next step in the process, would be tremendous. But if I'm going through that process and I'm struggling a little bit with country requirements, or what do you really need in this field, or what exactly is that document you're looking for, tell me what type of resources are available to help me, train me, and where's the client relationship, the customer relationship come in?
The people aspect doesn't go away. There's always going to be people involved in the process. And I always think about it, no matter how big or how small a client you are, the needs are always going to be the same. The products are always going to be the same. The requirements are always going to be the same. So the people aspect of things, there'll always be people assigned to something to help. But getting it into the bank, into the fulfillment engine could cause a lot of delays. So by using this product, you remove a lot of that idle time that existed, whether it was an internal JP Morgan person or at the client side. But for us, it was making the push of information in as simple as possible. And you can send it via email, via Swift, or through our e-banking platform, JP Morgan Access. And that simplicity is, I think, the hidden gem in all this.
That's important. And also, going back to your people question, like, we are using this tool to give our people more time back so they can be more responsive to clients. So if somebody's going through, a first time onboarding in some, in an Asian country and they have no idea what the requirements are, we can actually, we can be more responsive now. We're right there. Our people aren't spending their time keying things into systems anymore, but we can spend more time being responsive to what their actual needs are.
Great. So I have the system to deliver the documents to you, get e-signatures, track the process. Those forms feed into the next forms of whatever's required in the individual countries, and yet I still maintain that customer relationship, that if I still need to pick up the phone and ask a question, I still have that as my final backstop.
Correct. And this is, we like to think of it as, it's not a bank product. I mean, it sits within our firewalls and we're developing it, but it's in conjunction with the clients in the market. A lot of times needs change, demand changes, and we're able to kind of pivot to fulfill that. So client feedback is very, very important in this whole process. And agile, everyone says agile process and multiple iterations. We spend a lot of time in the market with the clients here at AFP, and a lot of discussion we have is what are your pain points? It's not what we're doing. I mean, we could show you demos and go through that, but it's what are your struggles? So the client's been kind of at the center of everything we do.
Okay. How has this been helping with compliance issues? Have you seen some improvements in terms of corporates gaining in that area?
Absolutely. So it's much more simple to be in compliance with something if you have if you have automation around it, right? So a lot of times compliance comes through checklists and policies and procedures that people have to follow. If you can systemically do that, right, there's no chance for things to go off the rails. There's no chance for somebody to bypass a control. So that's really important. And we talked before about the document exchange. If you think about regulations like GDPR, for example, when you're emailing documents back and forth, which may have privacy information, that's probably the least secure way of delivering documents. within the Data Once portal, we allow clients to actually drop their documents into the portal. It goes in, it automatically gets encrypted, it's stored in our back-end repository. It's not sitting in somebody's email inbox. There's no chance for somebody to forward it out to somebody else. So in terms of compliance, we think this really strengthens our ability to be, compliant very quickly, and especially as regulations change, we'll have a place to really go into and keep them up to date.
Yeah, I think it's important because when you look at multinationals going global with all their business, if you're doing business in a country like China or India, regs can change, often. So being able to have a simple place to go, update the requirements, get everyone buy-in, and just not exposing the bureaucracy to a client, it's critical because we need to move at their speed, and this tool allows them to do that.
Great. As we get close to wrapping up here, tell me what new enhancements you might have next year. Will I be able to pull reports from this system? What other things are coming that's going to enhance my...
So I'll start. So we envision, the way Glen looks at it, it's end-to-end. So the minute you come into the bank to do business, all the way through to fulfillment to your normal BAU client service support, it's end-to-end, it's key. So I'd say the two most critical things for next year would be authorized signers and being able to electronically manage those, and then fulfilling KYC and the renewals around that.
Yeah, KYC renewals is another very sore spot for many of our customers because they come up regularly, and you probably have one or two that come up a month, and it becomes just a regular routine. So we want to put some order around that to make it simpler. But the most important enhancement we're going to have, and that's actually coming out this weekend, I think, is the electronic signatures.
Okay, that's just coming out this weekend.
It's coming out this weekend. We're very excited about that. But rather than, typically when you're going through one of these processes and you needed, a senior manager to sign off on some documentation, A, you have to find out where they are in the world. B, you got to send them the document. C, they have to find a printer to print the document out. Then they sign it, and then they have to find a scanner so they can scan it back in and email it back to us. You absolutely lose days.
Oh, I've lost weeks doing that, and
Exactly.
the person's going to be in one country, and you FedEx the documents to them, and then they're gone by the time they arrive. And so that's a great enhancement that's coming out.
So they'd be able to go in, on an iPad, review the documents, click to sign online, and everything's done, and it will knock those days to weeks out of the process.
Well, I can tell you, as a former practitioner in Treasury, I would have loved to have had these services. I think this is a great enhancement, it's a great product that you're offering, and looking forward to seeing more of it. And thank you both for joining us this afternoon.